Hey everyone, this is Kyle Beers, hosting the interview today, Life After High School, and we have the man himself, the man that makes this wonderful podcast, that asks some insightful questions, and he has amazing people on this show. We got Glenn. So Glenn,
Sweet intro. Thanks, man.
tell me a little bit about what your high school experience about, and then we'll get into what was like life after high school for you. I want to hear a little bit about what you were like as a kid. I know you went to Llewellyn
too. No, Lockerbie.
Oh, Lockerbie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, might as well.
The other L
This-
school,
yeah.
one of the other L's. Yeah.
And I was like, well, it's both great schools, but what ended up happening, I'm trying to think back. That was so long ago. I think that was like literally 10 years ago last year. Like, I was like, dude,
It's not that long.
You're like, all right. But what ended up happening was high school was good. It wasn't a matter of, for me looking back, it was kind of, I didn't feel like I wasn't popular. I didn't feel like I was. I wasn't, or I was, and I didn't feel like I was like a really great athlete, and I didn't feel like I was like a really bad athlete. Like I felt like I enjoyed doing a lot of different things, and kind of like meeting a bunch of different people, and like seeing who, like, you know, who like doing different things, and like what things I like doing. I'm like, oh, that seems fun. Let's, you know, hang out with these people, try these things. If I don't like it after a bit, let's try something else. And then I ended up kind of towards the end of school, like I basically spent a lot of time focused on soccer, cross-country running, not so much track and field, and then I was working a lot because I knew I was going to leave to go to Ottawa for school, and the only kind of constant with all that between working a lot, soccer, and like cross-country running and swimming, actually those three were like, you know, I was pretty good at them, like well enough, like went to OFSA for each of them.
Nice.
So yeah, I was pretty fired up about it. And what ended up happening was the whole constant from grade 9 to 12, like of all the different classes and nonsense things that I tried, like everything from bio to chem to, the one that stuck was architecture and like the architecture design drafting classes.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like using like AutoCAD and
Yeah,
stuff.
man, I was
that's
like
fun,
pretty
that's fun.
decent with it. It like seemed to click and make sense. So I was like, I kind of shaped this question of like, not what do I want to do or where do I want to go, but I knew kind of two things. It was like I knew what I wanted to learn more about, and I was like, that was the main one where I'm like, if I can focus all my efforts around this question and this answer, then I think that, and I think everybody else, if they in that scenario ask themselves or have that kind of reflective moment where they're like, hey, what do I like learning a lot about? If I do more of this, I can only enjoy it.
Yeah.
The rest of the, like, as long as I do it or as long as I study it. So that was kind of I want to leave Sudbury. I want to go live in Ottawa. I had a lot of family there, some
Ottawa's
friends there.
amazing. Yeah, it's incredible.
Great city.
Incredible.
It was a great city too. So now, I caught it like right before all the craziness happened with COVID and this politics and everything. But anyways, what ended up happening is I apply, I go to Algonquin College for architectural technician. It's a 2-year diploma, and then it can transfer into a 3-year advanced diploma.
Yeah.
So I ended up taking the 2-year, branching into the 3, but as a lot of people know, the first year of college or first year of university is a write-off for a lot of people.
It'll certainly be tough, right? The first time away from home and whatnot. Yeah, absolutely.
So it was weird because I remember we had a class. There was a class I failed. That was like a 1 every year type class. I shouldn't have failed it. Like, it was so stupid. But it was so boring. It was at a 2 to 5 on a Friday.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
I'm like, man, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can't do that. So ended up failing that just based on like not showing up, and then it being a 30% midterm, a 30% 3/4 term, and then a 40% final exam.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't there.
Yeah.
And like he gave a lot of the way he tested was not based on any of the assignments or anything or like workshops. It was all based on like notes you take in class.
Yeah.
Asshole. David Scholdice, man, if you're watching this, find me, because that was nonsense.
Shout him out.
But man, not a fan. I mean, nice guy, but just, man, he has a voice for you know, being in front of a camera if the camera and the microphone is off. Like you just can't, like, you shouldn't be doing anything in front of people where you need to listen to him because it's just.
Yeah, monotone and
yeah,
Bueller.
Rough, man.
You know that reference?
No, you do these '90s references with me, and you're like,
yeah,
Milli Vanilli.
I'm born and raised in like the 1900s. I
felt bad about Milli Vanilli. That was rough.
Yeah, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. You should check that if you haven't seen that.
I've heard of it though.
You got to check
well
the
enough,
flick.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just this teacher and he's like doing attendance and he's calling Bueller like 3 times. And it's
Yeah.
just like monotonous and it's like the teacher you don't want to have, right? So that's what I'm referencing.
That's David.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, everybody's getting it today. And so, it got me in like a weird day, right? I was telling you about the morning.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh man, here we go. So what ended up happening is, failed that because I spent a lot of time doing
Extracurriculars.
thank you. Yeah, I was gonna say if I say recreational, it might sound not what happened.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time extracurricular activities. What that may be to some people might be different.
Absolutely.
It's semantics at this point.
Yep.
But what ended up happening was, I had to retake it. So and then I had a shortened semester, and then I ended up working a lot.
Yep.
Throughout, and like working as a lifeguard, and that was an interesting experience.
Have you ever had to use those skills?
Yeah, one time.
Oh man.
One time.
And what was that like?
It was my February 2nd, 2017. Yeah. It was like 7:30 in the evening.
You remember this vividly.
Oh yeah,
I get stuck with you. I can tell.
I have I used to journal a lot when I was living by myself in Ottawa. So I have these big sections of journals that are like from this day. There's nothing for months, and then there's like a really bad toxic breakup, and it was like,
yeah.
I would just write it all down, and then I find, at least for me, that's the best way to
It's great to put on paper, and it takes it
yeah,
out of your head.
It takes it out of your head.
Yeah.
You can look back and learn from
100%.
it, and then you can go, am I doing the same behavior as I used to?
I love that.
But anyways, what happened is this guy, so there were 2 classes. It was this basement pool, this YMCA, and it was legit the shape of like an egg, or like 2 eggs, or like the letter 8. And then what ended up happening is we hop in the pool, like the group of people. So I have 2 people in my class, and there's like a group of 4 in this guy Patrick's class. I was teaching the advanced class. He was teaching the beginner adult class. So I was teaching them with their strokes and their lengths. He was teaching them like getting comfortable floating.
Yeah.
That's the distinction. I ended up... he was swimming, and after I was like, okay guys, warm up, go back and forth, we'll correct a couple things, and then we'll kind of start the structural lesson, right? The warm up, the actual physical work, the cool down.
Yep.
This. What we ended up doing is a few minutes into the warm up, this guy Walter, he's 57, gets out and he goes, hey Glenn, I don't feel too well. And I'm like, okay, no worries, go take a seat on the side, no need to I was like, yeah, just sit on the side, chill out. If it gets worse, if you feel worse than you do right now, let me know. Yeah. I was like, cool, no problem. He gets up, takes a seat, no problem.
Yeah. I
walk around, I'm doing another lap, Patrick's doing his thing in the water, the adults are going. I look up, I'm looking at the one woman, I then look over to Walter, it's let's check in, keep my kind of 6 on both.
Absolutely.
All of a sudden I see his eyes go straight forward, his chin hit his chest.
Oh no.
His chest collapsed, his forehead hit his knees, and he forward rolls onto the deck. And I'm like, there's a split second that probably felt like an hour in the moment, but it was literally a fraction of a second, where I'm like, oh shit, what do I do? And then I swear a video game screen appeared in front of me with a checklist.
Absolutely.
It was the wildest thing, man.
Yeah.
It was so weird. And so, I don't know if you ever had to do a first aid or
I've had some instances, and you just you go into the mode. Where
it's whatever training you did.
And it's just A, B, C, D. Yeah. I've done that so many times, and it's just and then you ask me after, I'm like, I don't even remember it.
No idea.
It's just training, boom, 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 boom. Mm-hmm. And it's not a fun feeling, but I definitely know what you're talking about.
It's weird. Sure.
It is, yeah.
You don't, you're taking, you're as much in the moment as possible.
Yeah.
I've never experienced anything like it to this day.
Yeah.
And I remember there's a screen of things to do that kind of was a cheat code for it. Yeah. It was so weird, man, and I can't make this up. And I start yelling, Patrick was the other instructor. I'm like, get everybody out of the pool.
Yeah. Call
911 immediately. But so, thing with the Carlinwood pool is there's 1.5 foot up.
Yeah.
Right. So there's
from the water?
1.5 foot up from the deck. So it goes deck, 1.5 foot up, water.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, okay, no big deal. And then if you're in the pool, you can't see what's on the deck. So he's like, what are you yelling at? Oh. And I'm like, dude, I'm like, get out of the pool, get out, clear. And he's like, okay. Yeah. He starts getting people out of the pool. All of a sudden, he pops his head up, and he sees a guy collapse on the ground, and he's convulsed. There's blood coming out, right, of his whole face, mouth, nose, everywhere. And he's like, Oh man, excuse me. I remember he comes out. It gets better. Patrick gets out of the water. The last person is this woman, this older, bigger woman. She starts walking out of the pool. She looks and she starts breaking down, dude. It's her husband.
No.
Yeah, dude. It's her husband. She gets out. She starts losing it.
So now you got two people you gotta help, right?
Runs over to her. Yeah, I look over like as I'm like.
There's no running on the deck.
There's zero.
There's no running on the deck.
Yeah,
but I get it.
Yeah, circumstantial. I think we sped walk, but I have a note about this.
Trying to add a little brevity to it.
But it's to your point. What ended up happening is right after that, I yelled Christian. My buddy in the guard office yelled like first aid kit now. And so when I kept yelling his name, he tells me after that he's like whatever, I'm off, like whatever. Glenn probably just wants to yacht, which was the situation usually, but this one wolf time, I was like first aid kit, and he's like, that's when he's like, huh? Oh. So he grabs it, he comes out, he sees, he starts running, he trips and like drops the first aid kit like right in front of me, and like if we didn't like trade off like this, but he would have like probably dumped the whole thing on him. But luckily that didn't happen. Caught it because I'm not touching him without gloves, right? Absolutely, so he's running, he's getting the first aid kit, run over. He's got convulsions, he's got blood all over his face and his chest. His wife goes like, do something. I'm like, I'm getting my gloves. So I start putting my gloves on. She's doing her breaths, like the breaths, right? The two breaths. She's done like 4 at this point. Yeah. I'm like, okay, like back up. What ends up happening is Patrick's on the phone on the deck. Christian gets up after giving me the stuff, runs to go get there was a deck supervisor who was in our boss's office. Yeah. And those two went, and if it weren't for one of the other women, Rachel, who came in and just literally just like bigger woman too, picked up at this time, and she picked up this woman and just literally like backed her up outside of the pool deck, and we were like, oh man, this is crazy. Yeah. Ended up walking her out of the deck, getting like clearing her out because that was been a shit show and a half. And I remember like I did the compressions like 5-6 rounds, but there's a big thing I did that I didn't even think much about at the time, like consciously, but I don't know why I did it, but I'm very happy to this day I did, which was, and you'll appreciate this as like a older bigger guy, is I took my flip flops that I had, so like my slides, flip flops. Let's be clear, I don't wear flip flops, Kyle.
The thong flip flops.
Yeah, I don't wear those.
Thong flip
so just just be clear, no. But we can argue this later. But what ended up happening is I took the slides and I put them under my knees when I was doing compression.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Game over. Yeah. I was like, this is amazing. Greatest idea.
You could do it longer. Absolutely.
Wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't nothing. So I'm like, this is great. I don't know why I thought of that. Happy I did it. Anyways, Patrick calls. Paramedics show up. Now, 2 things that people don't realize. When paramedics show up on site, they don't run. Yeah. They go slowly. Yeah, they've never been. They have to assess. They can't get hurt.
If they get hurt, then everyone's hurt.
Everybody's hurt. Yeah, it's just chaos, right? Yeah. So what ended up happening is they showed up and they started setting up things, and I was like, guys, like can we? And they're like, no, like you're doing great. Like there's no better situation for doing compressions than you're doing right now. Yeah. Like there's no point taking. I was like, cool. So I did probably 8-9 rounds of compressions. We had the pocket mask on. My supervisor did a couple rounds of breaths. I did a couple rounds. We had, his wife did 9 rounds, whatever.
That can be exhausting too, right?
Terrible,
It's physically demanding to do that, right?
Yeah, it was insane. Yeah. And so I was like zooked afterwards. Without the adrenaline, I don't know like how I would manage that.
The emotional dump and the adrenaline dump after, right? You crash, yeah.
I do have a crazy thing that happened though. Like, so after this whole thing, and we made the paper. None of us by name, but whatever. And, who cares? And so what ended up happening is we left our boss's boss of like the YMCA of Northeastern Ontario came in, whatever, or whatever, and then like Western, like a bunch of people came in and they're like, yo, cool, thanks. It was like 11 o'clock on the Thursday by this point, and we were just debrief after debrief after debrief. Yeah. But then we had like a therapist come in.
That's good.
From like the Ottawa Ambulance Society, I guess, and I guess he was telling us these stories and whatever. But the thing that kind of bugged me about it was, as happy as it was, and I was like, okay, this is great. I was like, no, I feel good. Like, how you feel? You good? I'm like, I mean, here we are, right? Like, it's over with. I've done my reflection. I've done my writing shit down. I've talked to enough people. Like, I've talked to my friends, family, whatever. At the time, and I was like, this is fine. No big, I'm like, this is no big deal. Everybody else is dealing with it differently. Yeah. Right?
That's true.
The problem is that I ran into is I was now had a different fear, which was the fear of like I was so unsure of like what might happen because they're telling me something's going to.
Absolutely.
So they set an expectation in my head of like, hey, so Kyle, something might happen to you. Yeah.
Yeah, they're priming you, right?
And now I'm waiting. Now I'm like always on edge.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, it might not be now.
Yeah.
It might be when you're doing schoolwork.
Yeah.
Click. Doing schoolwork. I'm like,
yeah.
It might be when next time you're in the pool. Next time I'm in the pool, I got somebody's 3-year-old and I'm trying to make sure they're floating. And then I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And then I panic in my head. And then I'm like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah.
I'm here.
I get
and
that.
I'm like, what are you? They like set me up almost. It was weird.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure about that. But.
You're good with it now?
Oh yeah, great
Processed
now.
it, yeah. And how was Walter?
Oh, he was fine.
Okay.
He doesn't remember nothing. He remembers showing up to swim class, getting out of the pool, and then waking up in the hospital with a bunch of broken ribs and or cracked ribs, broken sternum.
A cardiac thing, or?
Oh yeah, he had a heart attack.
Dude, like he's lucky to have you guys on
Dude,
the deck. Like, that's wild, yo.
The dude will never remember. He came back like an asshole too. He was like, "Hey, which one of you guys broke my ribs?"
That's how it works, though.
And I was like,
"You got to crack that sternum, though. Like,
You have to
otherwise
crack
you're
it.
not gonna pump the heart, right?" So.
Mhm. Anybody who says, "Oh, I did CPR and I didn't crack the ribs," I'm like, "Well, that's probably why they died."
You
Because
didn't
there's
do
no way.
CPR.
Yeah.
No, you have to.
You have to.
Even when you do like on the dummies, and
Yeah.
you hit that first one, like you get that pop. You know what I mean? And that's the sternum going.
I
That's the
feel it,
ribs, and
yeah.
you have to. And that's not an easy bone to break, right?
No. Oh, sternum
And it's
probably won't break.
Pretty painful too, right?
Yeah,
Like
you'll
car
definitely break
accidents and
ribs.
stuff. Yeah, yeah.
For sure, break ribs.
I've had a few of
Definitely
those.
crack the sternum, but definitely won't. I mean, you might break it, you might not. You never know.
But yeah, right on.
Yeah, man, that was a
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You saved a life.
Yeah.
Like not many people get to say that.
No, dude, it was cool.
That's super cool.
Dude, I appreciate you bringing that up too, because like every now and then I forget. Like it goes a long time, and then I'm like, oh yeah.
Dude, that's wild.
There's this thing, and that's not just like a cheesy line I used to say to like wingman my friends. Where I was like, this guy saved my life once. I was walking down this thing, and he pulled me away from this car when this dog jumped in.
Yeah.
No, that was real. Yeah.
Dude, that's
so
cool.
I appreciate
it is,
that. Yeah, I'm glad I got to bring that up. So lifeguarding was awesome. Then a year later to that day, I got fired. So sick. Literally to the day, dude.
Yeah.
Like a year later, they're like, "Listen, you did something, and you can't be doing that." And I was like, "You're right."
I don't need to ask what it was. We don't.
I didn't communicate properly when I should have.
Yeah.
And I left when I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
That's really it. The semantics aren't important.
Saved a life, man.
Pretty much
That's cool. I had no idea. That's
Yeah.
wild.
That's crazy.
I bet you none
Appreciate
of these people don't even know that either, right?
Hell yeah.
So you left it off. You're kind of just finishing up. You're doing the 3-year at Algonquin.
Yeah.
What's happening at this point?
3 became 4.
Nice.
And it was, lifeguarding, got fired, and then was like, okay, well, what's kind of next?
Yep.
Right?
Natural.
And then I'm like looking around, I'm like, okay, well, what's going to happen now? There was a lot of things I had wanted to do. So back then, I think you remember too, there was a strike with the Ontario. I don't think it was just universities, but I think it was both universities, but colleges had it worse.
Yeah. And it's happened a few times for sure.
Yeah. So this was like a good 5-week stretch.
Okay.
Excuse me. And I remember going back and forth talking to my parents, and everything was compressed. And I remember them being like, Glenn, this is your last like year and a half. You should like look to see if there's like abroad stuff, because I was like, I want to travel around.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, well, and the thing is, I had a bunch of friends from Colombia, some friends from Germany, some friends from like different places in like South America, North America, and I was like, you know what? Kind of like I like hearing about all this stuff that you guys are doing. They're like always really fascinating people. Like, I'll say something and they'll be like, oh yeah, cool. I'm like, whoa, you're from there. I'm like, they're like, man, back home we would have, and like back home the way they would talk about it was like this mythical place.
Yeah,
so I'm like, right? But I'm like, man, that sounds sweet. I'd love to go visit. And they're like, you can.
Yeah.
I was like, oh really?
So you're well traveled?
Yeah, it got to that point once. I think over 20 countries.
No way.
Yeah, between like South America, Europe, and then a couple vacation spots as a kid, but whatever. But
that's the best way of learning.
Yeah,
Like honestly,
best
go
way.
in and like immerse yourself in a different culture,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you can read about it, you can watch videos, documentaries, but like actually going and living it, and like actually knowing people, right? And they don't do the touristy thing. Like you go to like the real spots.
Dude, I got it. Yeah.
Like that's amazing. It's like is there any one country or experience or memory that like really stands out to you to this day?
Oh man.
I'm sure they're all like amazing, right?
Yeah, I got a couple crazy standout moments from places that I didn't really think would be that interesting. Like I have, like Italy was cool.
Yeah.
But and like the Paris, the London, like anywhere in France, like Germany, like they're all great, but like those are more of the countries you go to. But then when you start going to like Poland,
Oh,
Czech Republic, Croatia.
beautiful.
Beautiful, yeah.
Yes.
That's one to go to. And then there's also, so what ended up happening was we went to, in this process of figuring out where to travel, I found on a 2-week trip that was the week of May 10th to like the 25th or something. The after I graduated, every other trip was kind of during, and it was less time. And I'm like, I want to go for a while, and it has to be after I graduate.
Yeah.
There's no way. So it was to Ecuador.
Okay.
And this was probably the first and most like crazy culture eye-opening thing, because it was a service trip to like, if Quito is the capital, and Quito's like, it's a equator town.
Yep.
Ecuador, equator. And it's literally like there's an equator line around the center of the world, and that's where like the capital city is, right there.
Right on.
And 8 hours south of that by bus through the mountains was a port, and we took like a big like 50-foot John boat and down this river for like another 2 hours to this hut where we all stayed, and then we basically got back in the John boat every day and like went to this like big jungle part of Ecuador, like way south in Ecuador, or south of the capital in Ecuador, and then went and just build houses out of concrete, just going back and forth, filling up buckets of water, dumping them in, filling up with gravel from pits, bearing them in. Dude, I mean, when I say like the rainforest is ridiculous, I mean it'll be pouring rain, and it's 38 degrees, and it's just disgusting. Like, it's so hot out. The sun is bright. There's 38 degrees.
Crazy humidity.
The humidity is through there. Like,
there's
no other way.
How long did it take for that concrete to cure? Like, probably took a really long time.
Yeah.
Guys, I used to work at Rainbow, and one of the worst jobs ever. But like waiting for concrete to cure me, like 16-hour days. But yeah, did you get some good chocolate, good coffee?
Oh,
like the best, right?
So it's funny that you mentioned that. The greatest cup of coffee I've ever had in my life is this guy who currently still runs a coffee shop. Shout out to Fabio. He runs a coffee shop called Whitco Coffee, and it's the best cup I've ever had. And he gave it to me when he was there because he was like just starting it, and he had like this huge, dude, I'll show you photos after, man. It's this huge coffee spot. I've had him on the show, which is crazy because he did it from the Amazon on like his like some weird Wi-Fi thing they have, and I'm like, all right, cool, man. So next time I go to Ecuador, that's like the next like coffee trip, because there's like best cup I've ever had, to the point where I take it with milk all the time. And I used to take it milk and sugar. I've learned now. And so, you know, I'm not quite a grown-ass man like you, where I have it black all the time.
Black,
Yeah, you're a real man, Kyle. What ended up happening was crazy. He goes, this is the first time I ever had a black cup of coffee as well, too, because I'm like, can I get a bit of milk? He's like, no. You won't need any. I'm like, what do you mean I won't need any? Dude, it was steaming hot, but it was the perfect temperature still. And it was like the flavor, it was so rich, but there was no, coffee sometimes.
No bitterness.
No bitter aftertaste.
Yeah,
there's no like, I feel like I just drank coffee and then that taste is still on my teeth and mouth. No. It almost tasted like fresh, like a fresh glass of water. I'm like, what is refreshing taste, man?
Yeah.
But it's like, down the road is where the beans were like harvested.
Talk about like farm to table, right? Like,
legit.
right there.
Like, I'm like, well, you see the farm and we see the table. I'm like, that's crazy. So and to see all that was like insane. And that's kind of, that trip was the one that kind of like kick-started that kind of like excitement for it. And for that exploration of like, oh, I'm learning from all these different people and I'm meeting all these cool people, and then I'm having that standalone best cup of coffee I've ever had still. And the funniest part is, and by the way, let me just say something. I was one of, I think there were 10 or 12 people on this trip. And when I say people, I mean me and 11 or 9 other women. Not other women, but women. So it was me and a bunch of full-grown women, dude. Because other women would imply...
You just called yourself
so I'm like, that's not what happened. So they're like, dude, crazy. Because I'm like, what is happening? So, first of all, they're all the sweetest women on the planet, and I'm like,
are they from all different countries?
Not so much countries, but they were all, some of them were from Ottawa, some of them from Vancouver, some of them like
mostly Canadian,
live in Portugal now, some of them like, one of them, she just got married again, and then like a few of like they kind of sprinkled throughout Ontario and Canada as well. Some of them live out west, some of them live out east, and I'm like insane, but they're all well traveled as well, and it's like even more so than I am, and like just to kind of hear what they've all done and what they've all like been doing. And I grew up with a lot of brothers, like 3 of them, so 2 older, 1 younger. And what ended up happening was I felt I got a lot of exposure to like men
Yeah.
and dudes and like just like roughhousing, like
Yep.
the physicality of it, and then with sports and stuff like that. And growing up, I'm like, oh, this is like used to like being around dudes, and then I didn't really get. It was, I think at one point it would have become toxic had this trip not happened.
Yeah.
Whereas like then I spent 2-3 weeks with like a bunch of women.
Yeah.
And I'm like, huh. The nicest thing though that none of them got to experience about that trip that I did.
Yeah.
Each of them had to bunk up with somebody.
Yeah.
Not me.
Because yeah.
Epic.
That's pretty insightful, like how that impacted you.
Yeah.
And now you spoke about having like meeting all these different people and learning from them, and you're literally doing that now with this podcast.
Yeah.
Right. You're just meeting different people, all walks of life, learning from them. You know, asking them great questions. You know, adding your bit. Like it's almost like it's just carried on.
It did
It's
seem
pretty
like
cool.
it, yeah.
It's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. There's a lot of stuff that I've noticed through doing that kind of started the whole idea of that, and then meeting people in school that are like, well, what do you listen to when you're working for 16 hours straight, just music? No, my brain's going to fry up.
Yeah.
Especially if like, granted, I can't listen to you talk on a video we edit and listen to a podcast or music even.
Yeah.
Because I need to hear both. But I'm like, if I'm doing like estimates for work, then I could definitely listen to it.
Yeah.
Voices, right? So I'm like, okay, well, what do I listen to? It's like podcast. I'm listening. I was kind of like getting introduced to it. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool.
Yep.
And I'm like, ooh, let's ask these people these questions. Because again, you're also in the rainforest. So there's zero within reason cell reception.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And like, you can't be walking around with it as well. Like, that was like a pretty strict thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, cool. Because the whole point was disconnecting.
Yeah.
Some Muppets had it for their camera, camera phone. But I'm like, there were enough people with iPhones that I didn't need one. I just left mine in my cabin all day, and other people took photos when I wanted them.
Right.
And sent them to me. So
Unplugging is like,
yeah, it was awesome.
It's therapeutic. More people need to do that.
It
I
was
feel.
super underrated, and that was kind of how that trip. I saw the power of that. I saw the power of kind of the forced, like, amplified connections between people that have never really met or never really got to understand each other, but they're all just now in this place in South America.
Yeah.
Like on literally the lower half of the world, and I'm like, you know, you guys are all right. Like this is a pretty cool place, and like I have a special place in my heart for all of them in like in a way for kind of what they allowed me to understand about myself during that trip.
It's wonderful.
Yeah,
Great experience.
it was crazy.
So, have you had any crazy? Did you see any crazy spiders, snakes? I'm just curious. I hate spiders, and when I was in Costa Rica,
Dude,
we got to see
snakes,
like spiders the size of my fist.
No way.
I got to see the Jesus lizards running on water, like some cool. It's
On
like
water?
Yes, the Jesus lizards. Like that's like they're not obviously not the scientific name. They look like Fred Flintstone with their feet. They run
they
so
like,
fast, you know.
like
and they just don't break.
propellers.
Yeah, they don't break the surface. Like
What?
I had to see that.
That's crazy.
Monkeys like throwing limes
Saw
at
a lot
us.
of monkeys.
Yeah. So like, what are some of the cool
Dude,
wildlife or fauna
Bro.
things that you've seen?
Tarantulas aside, because saw those, we did a night hike, and the thing that kind of was like, of everybody that was going to go, was like 12, let's say 10 for easy numbers, 20% of the people, so 2 of them were like, nah, not going on the night hike.
Yeah.
Optional.
That's
and
when Jungle Comes Live, right?
Dude, exactly.
Oh.
And like, does it ever.
Yeah.
So this is what happened with the snakes. So the thing is Buddy explained it this way. He's like, there are big snakes that'll kill you because they're bigger than you. But it's not those ones you have to worry about. Because it's the ones that are much smaller than you. Because it's like, well, what do they have to keep them survive? Poison, right? They're way more dangerous, way more lethal. And he's like, we're 8 hours away from an Ecuadorian hospital.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're not like, come on, what's going on here?
I'm sure that hospital's fully stocked and
No,
everything.
I'm sure I'm sure they see it all the time. I mean, it'll take a day to get there, but who knows? What ended up happening is, I remember them going like, "Oh, look, us!" Like we were walking, and then they're like, "This is when literally, like after this moment, everybody, 2 women, our lead, our guide, and me." There's literally like 5 of us, man.
Yeah.
Like everybody else was like, "No." After this, we were walking. Our guy Fabio again was like, "Oh, look, a snake," and we're all like, "Where?" On the ground, and he's like, "No, up."
Oh, yeah,
You go
exactly.
up, and there's like from like where the light is, there's a snake just like wrapping.
Oh man.
And we're like, ah! But you can't yell because you'll scare it. And it'll, bro, enough's enough, right?
Yeah,
We're like, what's going on? We end up like keep walking. 3 of them just like, no, I'm done. And they just hightail. And we're like a kilometer into the bush, so they just walk back to their little headlamp, all the way back. And I'm like, guys, what's going on here, bud? Crazy. So yeah, that was my one weird animal, scary animal encounter. And I'm not a big snake guy.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm like, that was a bit frightening.
Yeah.
A bit freaky, but otherwise. I'm all right now, but
yeah, no spiders.
PTSD.
I've seen a couple snakes, but it's the spiders that do it for me.
Those
man.
do it for you, yeah.
And I know my mom's been like she's super afraid. So I don't know if it's like a learned behavior, but I remember one time
It might be.
I was like 9, and she calls my buddy's house where I'm playing, and she's like, "Come home, you got to come vacuum a spider up for me."
No way.
So it was like that. So we're out having dinner at this like it's an outdoor restaurant at the top of a mountain, and it's like a pergola, like there's no roof, but
Love pergolas,
spider drops on
Built
my
a
mom's
few.
shoulder, and my dad and I see it, and he brushes it off, and she's like, "What was that?" "Oh, nothing, honey."
Nothing.
And then we're like, "Oh my God, like that was huge." And then we're walking down. It's like this spiral cement staircase, and it's like hundreds of steps, and all you hear is crunch, 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 crunch.
Stop.
And I'm thinking like, what is that crunch? Spiders. Like we were walking on spiders.
No
crunching them.
way, dude.
Dude, it was absolutely insane.
What?
Yes, and so even to this day, like the tiniest little
Spiders,
spider.
yeah.
Oh,
Snakes, they're not too bad, but
they don't bug me too much. Like I'm not gonna pick
Right.
one up or play with one.
no, same.
But especially like in Northern Ontario, like I know they're not gonna be too bad, right?
No,
They're not like rattlers and stuff like that. But
no fan. Yeah.
But yeah, I know it's spiders, man. Oh, that's my bug.
That was a lot. Yeah, no thanks. That's that's a weird one. But yeah, not. I think you're right because my mom's the same way when it comes to snakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, freak out and I think that's a learned behavior.
It
yeah.
can be, yeah.
I'm not that bad, but
And I watched Arachnophobia way too young.
oh well, there. Yeah,
So that probably
definitely
did it too.
learned and a bit suggested. Yeah,
Absolutely.
primed as we used earlier.
Yeah. So you're well traveled. When did you kind of come back to Sudbury? Like when did you kind of lay some roots down here again?
So what ended up happening was I applied for a job like end of May, June, for a job here in town at an
What year
architecture
is this?
firm. 2019. So I just
Okay.
got back from like a bunch of spots throughout Europe.
Yep.
And then I had I done the trip in May to Ecuador, Colombia, Ecuador, but it was like you know really spent so much time in Colombia, it's at the airport, but whatever.
Yeah.
So Colombia, Ecuador, about 15 countries in, 14 countries in Europe, and then went to, which is wild. And then kind of before that, but after this first one, I like applied, and I got like a gig at an architecture firm in town.
Nice.
Yeah, it was pretty sweet. The thing is, and this is from my side of it, I think there's like, it was a group of things that happened. I was brought on with I had done a lot of commercial construction drafting and estimating and project work in school, and it was like I had a commercial construction portfolio. Right, so I think I'm well versed in terms of construction, in terms of now residential a lot because like that's just what we do. But then it was a lot of commercial. I was like, okay, like I'm drafting, I got all these complicated details I know answers to. I'm like, I felt pretty good with construction, like commercial construction. So what ended up happening was I got hired on with the like, you're going to be doing a lot of detail work for the KED project. That was kind of like the beginning of that, because that was 2018.
Yep.
Right, so it was like that was the beginning thing. Everybody was like gung ho, like casinos. So we were hired by subbed out a lot of the work from another architecture firm in Toronto to at the time, and by Gateway Casino.
Yep.
Right, and so they had hired us. And I was doing a lot of the detail work, and I don't know what's on the NDA I signed or not. But anyways, what ended up happening is, well, we all know it's nothing right now.
Yep.
And so I think what happened, it got delayed, and then halted.
Yeah.
And so what happened was, is after it got delayed and halted, I ended up doing like a lot of very repetitive same type of jobs and drafting jobs, and like I'd go do a deck addition, or I'd go measure for a sunroom, or I'd go measure for a garage, and I'm just doing the same construction drawings.
Like Groundhog Day.
Yeah, it was like, and I think one of our my old supervisor at the time, Rob, was like, he said it best. He was like, "We're a drafting factory."
Yeah.
And I was like, ugh. That kind of turned me off a bit.
Yeah.
Because I was like, yeah, no, I feel like I'm just pumping out kind of, and at that time, I think not as well as it could have been, based on the amount of time I spent focused on commercial.
Yeah.
So my disconnect was the residential stuff. So like sizing everything, I was pretty slow at, because I just hadn't had a lot of the reps that I had with the commercial sizing for like metal steel beams and columns versus wood and stuff.
Yeah.
Very, very different and everything.
Yep.
Now it's much better just because I've had physical application to it.
Yep.
But what ended up happening is, I think it was like half performance and half amount of work we had at the time, that it was like, Glenn, gotta let you go. And I was like, makes sense. I think it was a bit of both, but I think over time, I think there's like 8 months in, it was about at the year, just over a year mark, where we parted ways. But I think at 8 months I should have left. I think 8 months was where I was like, if I don't leave now, because I think everybody gets to a point with their job, for, well, most people, but I think everybody to an extent at one job. It might not be the one you're at now, but I'm sure you've had this,
Oh yeah.
Kyle, in the past, where you're like, you get to, like, there's a line, and it's, for me, it was 8 months there where I'm like, after 8 months, if I don't quit by this point, it's now going to start affect my performance, and I'm going to get let go.
Yeah.
And then that's just what ended up happening there. Had I would have quit at the 8 months, it would have been on my terms. I could have set it up a bit better.
Yeah.
But instead, it was like, now my performance was like that last few months was just like, it started to dwindle, it started to take effect, there were more issues.
Yeah, your heart's not in it, right?
Yeah, and like
it's not fun anymore.
No, and there's like a line and a threshold that I'm like, if you pass or cross through that threshold, then that's where I think it can have detrimental effects, not just you but the business you're working at. And I think that's why it was on kind of terms that it was like.
Oh, that's a good point to make, for sure. Yeah.
So after that, searched around for spots, for work, found a few, but at that point I left being like, I want hands-on application.
Yeah.
And then I did a bunch of different, like, worked at one place for a few months, worked another place doing renos and demo for 6 months, worked another place doing like weeping tile and stuff. And then I think 2019 end of it, I had this guy I worked with at one of these companies, and he was like, hey man, I'm starting my own thing, I got a bunch of work to do. He's like, I need like a lead hand, somebody to like run shit with, and then who like can learn. And I was like, dude, say less. He was hammered after a hockey game on a Wednesday and called me at 11 o'clock at night, and I'm like in bed. I'm like, what is this? What's my phone? Why is Kevin calling me?
Yeah.
So I pick up the phone. I'm like, what's up, dude? And he's like, yo, G, I'm hammered, so here's what we're gonna do. Got a bunch of calls I need. Are you in? What's this guy paying you? And I was like, this. And he's like, I'll pay you more. I'll pay you that, and you get a work van. I'm like, sure.
Done.
When do I start? And so about 3-4 weeks later, started with them, and kind of helped them steer what was like an idea into a business, and then eventually turned something into nothing, and then nothing into. Then he got an opportunity to take over a security company in town, like doing like alarms, installs, cameras. Really, really successful right now. Doing it SSI. Shout out to them, and they're. Then I was like, I'll help you with the transition for a few months. Didn't end up wanting to just pull cable and install cameras. I was like, I'm good on tools, but this is kind of boring.
Yeah.
Don't really care for it. I'm applied to a couple different buildings as like a construction project coordinator. Got those gigs. Nice. And then, a couple years go by, a couple evictions, couple crackheads, bunch of needles, bunch of threats, and crime witnessing, and then, pulled the trigger about a month ago and was like, I can do this full rip by myself.
Yep.
And now we're going.
So you got, is this you right here?
Yeah, man.
A general
contractor near me, man.
Tell me about that. Like, I know, like, you're gonna check out some work at my house, and I deeply appreciate that. But
of course.
Tell me more about like what's your experience? Are you enjoying it? Is every day a little bit different? Because I think you like that diversity, right?
Yeah,
and,
sure, right.
And I definitely like that as well. And like, you have to love what you do, and if you love what you do, you don't actually work.
Exactly.
You know, it's just a
it doesn't
passion.
feel like it.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it goes by and stuff, and it's what's cool about it. I think so. There's actually something that happened like a couple months ago where I was on the fence where I'm like, I'm getting all this stuff, but I'm like, I'm working where I'm like working X like 25 hours a week at this place, 20 hours a week, and I'm like, I'm getting calls during the day there, and I'm like, I can't go help you. They're like, hey, my sink's leaking, I can't do this, my roof's leaking. I'm like, I could fix this, I could do it now, and I could charge you way more. Like way more than what I was making at the time. So I'm like, what's going on? And I'm like, I don't even have to charge that much, but it'd be more than what I'm making now. So I'm like, well, what am I doing? I'm like, let's think this through. And shout out to Michael for this, because we ended up going to Christian's movie premiere in Toronto.
Okay.
For Borderline. Shout out to him, shout out to Ricky.
Absolutely.
And Oscar. And they love you, by the way. Like last night when we were at dinner, they're like, yo, Kyle's the man. I'm like, yo, you want to see his co in the episode?
With Ricky?
Yeah, with Ricky and Mikey.
I saw the picture. So.
Yeah, and Oscar. They love you.
Those guys are amazing.
Oh, dude.
I love working with those
gems,
dudes.
man. They just love basketball, and they're such a passionate
They're
dude.
diehards, and they're Sudbury boys.
Yeah.
You know, at heart, right? I love it, and Oscar goes to the same school as my daughter.
Oh, no kidding.
So Ricky and I get to kind of chop it up
at
maybe
Alexander?
like once a week. Yeah.
Nice, no way.
We're there, and he's always, he's got the black sunglasses on, and
he's
all
doing
in black.
his thing,
I love
he's
it.
He's about to freestyle.
And then
moment.
we just talk about just basketball every time.
Dude, he's great.
We'll talk for hours.
Dude, he's so excited about everything.
They're awesome people, man.
He's the best.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening is we're there, and Michael He's like, dude, I got to take us to like go see Borderline. We were in Toronto before we went out west, and I was like, sure. They did a panel after, and it was Trevor, Zach, Jordan, Bruce, Christian,
Yep.
and then Ben and Donut Dave. I can't remember him as Dave, but Donut Dave clicks. So, anyways, goon of a guy.
Good
Love.
nickname.
Oh yeah, great guy. And all of them did a panel. And they were talking, whatever. It's a good time. But then Jordan said something that closed, and I actually recently told this to him. Was like in person too, and he was like taken aback by it. Was there was a part of what he said where he said something where he was like, everybody is like everybody who's like waiting to do something and pull trigger, right? Because he did where he had like everything to lose. He's like, I could have a house and set up an account and I could just make a bunch of money and whatever and chill, or he could like pursue a basketball career, dunking, and you never know. So what ended up happening is he says this thing and he gives this whole speech, and then he basically ends with like something along the lines that I'm paraphrasing, where he's like, if you have a boss and like a lot of people are like afraid to pull trigger because like their job sucks, but it doesn't suck that much, right? Or it's like it's really shitty day, but it's not that bad. And it's like as much, so it's like if their day was just a bit worse, or their job sucked a bit more, or you made just a bit less, or if your boss was just a bit more of a dick, you would do something about it. And I was just like, this motherfucker right here, right? So I'm like, oh no. I'm like, oh fuck, he's talking to me. I know he's whatever. I know after the fact when he told me he apparently was like informed to like speak to the person in the crowd that might be like watching or listening that might resonate with this. Don't speak to the group. And so I was like, holy shit, dude. And he's like, dude, I was speaking to you, and I was like,
that's wow, powerful,
man. Wow. Yeah, and then I was like, literally, I was gonna do my 2 weeks at the end of the year. And then I was like, I probably won't. So I was like, you know what? I was like. I literally remember writing the 2 weeks notice and being like, damn it, Jordan, as I hit print. And was like, damn it. And then I ended up, submitting it a while ago and was like, I feel good about it. So
like a weight's lifted. Dude, I've been there, done that, right? I've worked so many jobs like we talked about. And and it's super scary, right? And then launch your own business. Like I've done that, and you got to break through all the noise, because there's 100 other people that are trying to do it, right? And how do you differentiate yourself, right? And I think it's being authentic and like all those different experiences that you've had, right? You can bring it to the table now, and what works, what doesn't work, and you kind of you find your own lane from everything, right?
For sure.
From having these this vast repertoire of experiences.
And
I think you're going to be great at this.
Thanks, man.
And if it makes you happy, like, that's the best.
Dude,
and you're your own boss.
You
can't fire yourself.
No. There's some days I probably might want to, but this the weirdest thing about it, I think, was after I made that like almost realization, I think to your point too, a lot of people, and especially in Sudbury, it's like good, but it's tricky, right? Especially
political, man.
Right?
Like, so the basketball world here is political.
For you, I'd imagine it'd be worse too, and like worse, or maybe like not worse, but but like a bit more challenging in a way, because it's us is like, okay, it's construction. You can just start right. There's no.
Well, it's Sudbury. We have winter and we have construction season.
That's it.
But it means there's all these other voices, right?
Man.
So
but basketball sounds like a bit more of like you have to be like not only good as a player, good as a coach, understood well in the community, and then at least have some experience and notoriety in the community as well for people to trust you enough to like be okay, he's got something here, let's back it.
Especially because like working with youth, right?
Very much.
So trust is a big thing, and at the end of the day, this is something that I would do for free, but like gym time's expensive, equipment's expensive,
costs money,
and I think I've got enough experience and little tidbits that I can hopefully elevate a couple athletes, their potential, right? So, and you're gonna do that with people's properties, right?
That's the plan,
Because like
try to do that.
The most expensive thing you're gonna buy is a house, right? So if you're gonna let someone come in and do your work, like that's a commitment. There's some serious trust there. Because we've had some less than above board people with recently in Sudbury doing renos, right? So they've been in the news and whatnot, right? So there's always, it's in the back of people's mind, like, is this guy like bondable? Is he reliable, right? So, and then again, the more you do it, the longer you do it, that it just keeps building and building, and then eventually it's word of mouth,
right?
And I think you'll experience that too, right?
The craziest quote I heard in the last month was from Jack Armstrong, and he said something along those lines, where he's like, "You're the biggest decision of your career is being made with you not in the room.
Oh, dude.
And I was like,
that is
what?
100%. I believe in that. Wow.
I was like,
I've
my
never heard
goodness,
that.
man. Dude, he like basically
That is
pockets
facts.
of wisdom.
Facts.
I was like,
100%.
what the hell?
100%.
He's like, your reputation precedes you.
Oh, wow.
Tenfold. And he was like, the
love
biggest career opportunities of your life are happening in a room you're not in.
That's so true.
Crazy. It's like people make the decision
Yep.
without you there
Yep.
about whether they trust you enough
Yep.
to have you work with their kid.
That's thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
That is awesome.
That's crazy. I was just thinking.
Never thought of that, but like,
It makes so much sense.
yeah, that's one of the truest statements I've heard, honestly.
Oh, it was phrased so well.
Yeah,
I was like, oh
very
my
cool.
goodness, man. And there was a bunch of takeaways from like listening to him.
That's
but
what you're saying, yeah.
that was a big one.
Yeah,
That
you
was
and
a
Mike
big
had a
one.
good time, I think, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Mike and I chatted. We chatted last night. We had a really good talk
Oh,
too
good, yeah.
about like what he's going to do moving forward, and
We like after 7 p.m., after 8 p.m.
yeah. So we
Dude,
talked,
he should be in bed, man.
we
You should have told him to go to bed. You're like, why are you, dude? He was napping at
Yeah.
the table at 7 o'clock at the restaurant.
No, we were
Anyways,
maybe I don't know, maybe
He'll
it
watch
was
this
like
and get
10 or
mad, but-
10 or 11. But yeah, we were like probably talked for maybe 30, 40 minutes. It was a really good chat, and
Good.
talked obviously about basketball. That's like our
course.
common link and passion, and then talked about just moving forward with our different ventures and
Yeah.
stuff. And yeah, no, it was a great chat. I love. He's a good sounding board.
Dude, great
Yeah.
sounding board.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got interesting, challenging perspectives.
Yeah. For a young fella, he's got some pretty good perspective, right?
Very, yeah.
And it's kind of like a learned thing, right?
Oh,
So,
for sure,
yeah.
right? But like, man, and you could argue like being around as many people as he has, or
Yeah.
like what he's been through. But I don't even think it's what he's been through. I think it's all the people that he's kind of just surrounded himself with throughout the whole time, right? And the amount of times he talks to you, Picture Brain, the amount of times he talks to Dennis, Logan, like all these people that we all can like know and name drop, and it's just like, wow, he's just getting full exposure to that.
Absolutely.
Like right at a young age.
Yeah.
And that's what we're all talking about, like the older guys and like friends of ours and mine that are like, as if it's like if I was 20
Yeah.
and I had access and I had a network like he did.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Like 10x. So it's like
Yeah.
there's this weight I think too, and this like expectation of potential,
Yeah.
which is like a freaky thing.
Yeah.
Expectation of potential, I think, because I
It
think
could be it's scary.
It's a bit scary, yeah, intimidating for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, that
We-
can
we all
be
face it, but-
huge, especially in performance like sports.
Yeah.
Man, it's like talking about anxiety and
Yeah.
like fear of success sometimes, and fear of failure, right? Like they can lock someone up.
Yeah.
Right. But for those people that can cut through and navigate it, like how do you stop a person like that, right? That truly believes in themselves, like Mike does, and
Yeah.
some of the other people we know, right?
And what I think, I was trying to think of this thing that I thought about earlier, but there's a difference between, I think when it comes to making the decision to be, like, to just go for things versus, not going for things, and I think it does based on, like, what you really enjoy doing.
Yes.
Other things, it's like, I definitely have things that I just enjoy doing, and, like, if I want to push it, I could, but
Yeah.
I just, like, understand the commitment of what it would take, and I'm not willing to make the sacrifice in the other areas of my life to pursue these things.
Yeah, there's trade-offs, right?
Right? So I'm like, trade-offs aren't worth it. Or what's my favorite one from a great movie? I think it's called Girl Next Door. Juice isn't worth the squeeze.
Yes, that's a good
You
one.
know?
That's
Is that
a good one.
is that a good 90s?
That is a good one. I
Let's
like
go.
that. I like
Okay.
that. And
Had
actually,
to
just
make up for the.
I literally just watched a movie. So like Dino on their basketball team, he always gives me like he's a big
Dunovis,
movie guy.
baby, yeah.
So he gives me
Seen DMs.
movie recs, and I literally just watched one that he recommended, and they said that exact same
No
line.
way, juice ain't worth the squeeze.
Juice isn't worth the squeeze.
I love it. You
So
have
good.
to make sure the juice is worth the squeeze.
Yeah.
If you're gonna go into it, if what you get out is not what you're gonna put in,
Yeah,
or if make it worth it. If it's
Yeah.
not worth your while, not worth the time.
that's right.
Not worth the effort, not worth the energy. And I'm like, a lot of the times too, thinking like between pulling trigger on doing business or pulling trigger on doing like, something else personal or whatever. Like, I'm like, if I go into this and I'm like, if it does do poorly, that's on me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's fine. What did I really sacrifice? Maybe some money.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, as long as I think going in with to business, or whether it's no matter what your experience is, and I learned this from last guy, like from Kevin, years ago, because this whole thing, and even like just on the phone the other day with me, he was telling me he's got a lot of good things, but I think he wanted to start. I think he started business like too late
Yeah.
Because he has younger kids. His wife works weird evening hours.
Yeah.
So it's like, he can't really work too much overtime. Like,
That's tough. Yeah.
has to be from like 9 to 4,
Yeah.
and like nothing gets swayed, no weekend stuff. So
Yeah.
it's tricky, right? Especially like one day you might need extra. But the biggest thing we kind of did was we focused on just, he's like, if you just do right by people and you do it with the best of your intentions,
Yep.
and you do right by, just kept repeating, he's like, do right by people.
Yep.
Just literally, do right by people.
Yep.
And he's like, if you do right by people and it boils down to your intention, if you have good intention and you take care of people and you do right by them,
Yep.
and if you do a good job or a great job, they'll be happy. If you do a bad job, you're not just going to take all their money and leave.
Yeah.
You're going to do what you can to make it up to them.
Yeah.
And this way, that you at least make them happy and you take care of people. I think if you do things with that intent of like, I have my skills and experiences, I want to take care of you guys, make sure everything's taken care of, ask you questions, open lines of communication, everything, trust.
Yep.
Then if I'm doing that, and people could see through that too.
Oh, yes.
So if you do it with the best of intentions and you do it to do right by people, I think no matter what you do,
Yeah.
if you kind of have that as a focus and you lead with that, I don't think you can really fail in the long term.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, that's a good insight for sure.
I do think there's and people think of it weird as business or personal stuff, or like growing your brand is like, oh man, we have high, we have low. I'm like, no, it's a roller coaster.
Oh,
everything's ups and downs.
100%.
You can't think any business or anything is a positive all the time.
Yeah.
Right? Or even we have bad days, bad weeks, bad months, but it's not a bad life.
That's right.
Just,
yeah, you're
there'll be
doing what
highs
you
and
love,
lows.
right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah, no, and not everyone has that opportunity, right? And to kind of branch out on their own. And but I think the people that you said they're passionate about it and they're doing it for the right reasons, they want to help somebody or help a community.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to fail. And, even if you're not successful, like you said, right away, or you have some downs, it doesn't mean you failed.
No.
You've learned what doesn't work, or
Right.
you've learned how to weather a hard situation, and that's only going to make you stronger at the end of the day, or make you better able to serve that clientele that you set out to serve. You know what I mean?
Which is funny because my clientele is literally you and people like you, because I've talked to I've met with 5 different men and their wives, because they're fully capable of doing the job, but their wives want it done yesterday and they can't start till tomorrow. So they're like, hey, and then
tomorrow never comes free.
I'll get, and it's like, yo, man, you got young kids, or there's this woman I have to call $1,000 worth of work for, and she's like, so I'm calling you, Glenn, because my husband, he's a really good guy, he's capable of doing many things, but he just doesn't have time. And I'm like, you have 2 kids, both younger than teenage years.
Yeah.
One of them's disabled, and I'm like, you work from 7 to 5.
Yeah, that's tough.
Where after 5 it's kids and dinner, and then what?
Yeah.
Well, from say 8 or 9 to 11, maybe you have 2 hours before you have to wake up, or before you have to go to bed. Sorry, you're gonna cut a hole in the side of your house to put a patio door.
Yeah.
What?
It's tough, right?
You're gonna drywall a basement?
Yeah, and I've got all the tools, I got all the parts, I've
That's
had
what
it
I'm
for
saying.
years, all the equipment and all the materials, and I'm just it's literally been years, and it's just driving
But would
my
you
wife
rather
crazy.
coach basketball?
100%.
But
That's where I want to be on the court, or I want to be with my daughters, or I want to be with my wife. Those 3 girls are so incredible. But I'd rather be doing that than this.
For sure.
Even cutting the grass is
it's the worst thing ever.
And then it just keeps growing, and it's not even a nice yard.
It grows
ugly.
again.
And so when we first moved in,
that's so funny, man.
we live our backyard's a little bit of a bush area, and I was all gun ho, and I get the brush saw, and I'd cleared so much brush.
Yeah.
This was 10 years ago. The brush has come back 2-fold, and it's just encroaching.
I thought we cut it.
And I'm just so we had all these plans, and then life happens. I launched the academy.
Yeah.
I started shift work.
Yeah.
And then my buddy, just a couple neighbors down, his parents just bought a Kubota with the plow.
Sick.
And I'm so I texted him, and I'm like, can I borrow that? And so now I'm thinking, I'm going to start this whole project again, but I'm going to do it properly. But I don't know if it will ever happen. So if you're a landscaper out there, you might have a couple good months of work there if you contact me.
My little brother legit co-runs a landscaping company. He plows, he drives backhoe. He's like
he's a plows too,
dude.
Okay,
yeah.
you gotta set him up.
I will for sure. He's the second. He's gonna hate this. I'm gonna clip this separately. My little brother is an owner of one of the owners of an excavation and landscape company.
Oh, dude.
He is the second best operator in the city.
And you're the first?
No.
Oh, okay.
I just know he's gonna be he's gonna be pissed that I said he's the second.
Who's the first?
So there's nobody. It's probably him.
Yeah.
But he's the second best. My little brother's the second best heavy equipment operator in the city.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so he he does his thing though, and I'll definitely link guys up for sure because that's their whole thing is landscape company, and they plow, they cut,
I need that.
they sweep.
So like I love shoveling. Like I actually enjoy it. That's one thing of yard work. I enjoy shoveling.
It's physical enough,
And it's just kind of, headphones on, podcast,
Yeah.
and like it's just me out there, right? Well, my daughter's helping a lot now.
Nice.
Which
Oh,
is
there you
like mainly to make a sliding hill.
Yeah.
But it's maybe 8 or 9 years ago, I cut my finger off in a snowblower.
Dude.
I shattered like 3 of them. So I don't mess with snowblowers anymore. It was my own fault. Like I was just being a dummy, like rushing, being a dummy.
Do you have to like replace shear pins or something?
So it was like super heavy snow, and when I was living with my parents, just moved back from teacher's college. So our 2 driveways, like we had these double wide driveway with our neighbors.
Oh, okay.
So and they were elderly, so I would do theirs. So plow came by, I do where the plow came.
Of course.
Then
the
I do
plow
like
came
all
by.
of our my driveway, I do theirs, and then the plow comes by again.
Of course.
So I'm livid. And I got basketball practice coming up. So I'm just like, I just want to get done. I want to relax before I go to practice.
Of course.
And it was this heavy, heavy snow.
Oh.
And every like 5 feet, it would plug the chute. So
Yeah.
what I would do is I'd
Collect.
shut it off. I'd go get a paint stick, like a paint stirrer, poke it, and then start it back up. So I'm doing all of this. And now
Ridiculous.
I have literally like 3 feet left after the second plow run.
Mm-hmm.
But my paint stick is up on my front porch. It's like the furthest away. So me and my stupid long arms, I could hold the throttle and still reach the chute. So I was
No, you didn't.
Dude, this is the dumbest thing I've ever done.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
I don't know why I didn't let go of the throttle. Like I didn't.
How you still have a hand is beyond me.
So this, I'll tell you. So I was wearing gloves. So I just gave it a little poke, little poke, and I just hear like, I feel it, and I rip it out, and the tip is in the tip of my glove. It's severed. So I run up to the door, and I'm just like, Dad, we got to go to merge again. So he's pissed. He's like, again? So we're always there. So we put
Yeah.
my little nub in ice. We get there. I get there at 10:30 in the morning. I'm the 3rd snowblower victim of the day.
No way.
The 3rd. This is the same day that Joe Sakic did his.
Oh, epic.
So the other 2 gentlemen were wearing mitts though, and it just continued to go into the rotor, the propeller. Since I had gloves, it didn't. So
Sick.
just by chance, Dr. Barr, the plastic surgeon, was the doctor on call in a merge. If it was any other doctor, I'd have like half of a finger, and it would not be the same for basketball. Like I need my fingers.
Yeah, man.
So he's like,
What?
He's like, can I try something I've never done? And I'm like, yeah, like please. So what he did is he took the nub and he matched fingerprint ridge to fingerprint ridge.
What?
Stitched them back up like that, like a map.
What?
Right? And like there's all these residents were there. There was paramedics all just watching this. And he's like, you probably won't have a fingernail again. You probably won't have like hot or cold sensation. I've got a fingernail, hot and cold. The only thing is like the bone is like right at that. So if I tap it, I get like nerve pain up. But I'm like, I don't care. Dude, one of the dumbest things I've ever done in my life. So I don't mess with snowblowers anymore. But with the ice and stuff we get, I need something more than a shovel. So
it's bad.
I'm going to be contacting the little bro for
he'll
sure.
love it, dude. Oh, that's awesome. Oh my goodness. Oh, dude, that's incredible.
Yeah, it wasn't fun.
No, I'm glad to shout out to Dr. Barr, man. I'm glad
Yeah, right?
glad you can get your hands sewn back together, bro.
Right.
That's insane.
So I'm just looking at the table here, which I think used to be a door.
You betcha.
You got to be your little savvy. I like
You
that.
betcha, yeah.
What?
You say savvy, I say cheap at the time, but whatever.
It's semantics. like you say.
Semantics. You damn right. Let's go.
So I
get 'em-
see
get 'em
some
saying
like
it, man.
incredible names. I know
A bunch of them.
A bunch of them, yeah.
Literally every single.
And I love their
other
quotes.
individual.
What how long have you been doing the podcasting, and what are some of your biggest takeaways from
Oh, my
interviewing
goodness, man.
people that have lived really awesome lives after high school?
Man,
Putting you on the spot here now, I know.
first and foremost, I think doing it consistently since, well, I did a section of it in 2019 to 2020 to 21.
Yep.
And it was like inconsistent. And then 20 to 21 inconsistent, but then 2023 I think I started taking it like seriously and was like, okay, let's like, you know, we got something here, we have an idea. I think what helped a lot was like having this space, like moving in here, because then I was able to set up a studio, because I had it real bad where I would do it at Laurentian University, and I would basically, you can't book rooms, so if you're not a student apparently, so my infinite wisdom would go to like the open clear like rooms in like some of the buildings in the student rooms and like set up there. There was never availability. Everyone was always packed, or there was one person in like an 8-person room. What's going on here? Dude, I would get there like sometimes 3 hours before a podcast just to get a room, and I'd just be waiting there for like 2. Dude, it was just miserable. And I didn't have Wi-Fi because I'm not on school. So anyway, it was just I'd read and stuff and review notes, whatever. Anyways, dumb. But what ended up happening too is there were some times I would meet the guest and I would just still be walking around the school finding a room with them, and I was like, this is embarrassing. I can't keep doing this. Especially if I want to have like, you know, like really good conversations and cool ones. I was like, and with people who are really interesting to talk to are usually pressed for time. Right? So if I'm like, hey Kyle, we're going to look around for an hour before, and then, you know, we'll maybe do an hour and a half show, and then you're like, is this 3-hour event? I want to book off my afternoon to walk around with you in a school, right? Lame. So it's like, this is easier. It's like, hey, whatever time you get here, this one will do it. Way easier.
And you got the French press coffee.
Oh, dude.
Bonus
For sure. It's so good. And so what ended up, I think what ended up happening is, so I took it seriously. I started to take it serious. Took it seriously for a few years, and it's kind of where we're at now. And I think I was telling our buddy Juan. Takes the photos. I was telling him yesterday at lunch, because he's got a cool project he's doing.
Nice.
You'd be sick for it too. Yeah, but you're not on social media, so
I just started again.
Oh yeah,
because I relaunched my academy. So I'm back on Facebook and Instagram, and I've already burnt like 4 hours of my life just scrolling. Man, those reels get me. Like, I hate it. I told my wife, like, just one hit and you're hooked again, right? Like, so I'm trying really hard not to be on there, but it's like the algorithm, man. It just hijacks your brain.
Dude, it's like,
so I'm back on.
Inspirational quotes, butts. Inspirational quotes, butts.
Dude, it's
I'm
changed.
Like, stop!
In 4 years, social media has gotten even dumber and worse.
Dude.
And it's just like attention grabs.
Between the memes,
oh my god,
the reels, the thirst traps, and like,
right?
I'm putting my foot in every one of them now. I'm like, what's going on?
Just give me more. And I'm just like, oh my god. And then look, I'm like, oh, I just burned an hour, man.
Yeah, you're like, oh my goodness.
But hook me up with Juan for sure. And I'm back on begrudgingly, but there's definitely like a reason why, and you gotta kind of put yourself out there, right? If you wanna reach like athletes where they're at. And, you know exactly what it is.
For sure. And to your point, what I'm saying with Juan is like, he mentioned and brought up, I definitely need to give him a shout out, but he mentioned to me about, like, we were talking about the project, and then brought up he's going to do the podcast, so that's a spoiler. I think you're actually the first one to know that. Michael and you,
Appreciate
and then
now all you know. You all know.
And what ended up happening is he was telling me about, like, he's like, I want to talk about the podcast, let's have this. And I was like, you know what's funny? The podcast may not pay me through ads or sponsorships, but I've gotten probably 6 or 7 paid gigs between whether it be speaking or like other work opportunities.
Your contracting company, right?
It's ridiculous. It makes no sense.
Synergy,
like,
man. Like
it's crazy. I
love that how it works.
It's unintentional.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not like, okay, I have this big master plan. It's like, no. I'm just doing right by people.
It comes back to you, man.
It does. It's weird how it does. But it was like 5 Cent City. This last year, right? Which shout out to you again for helping me a lot with that. And then what happened was that year, I got that opportunity, and then I got a bass tournament. My buddy was like, dude, I saw the podcast. I still follow him. Like, he was a good buddy of mine from high school. We would exchange resources involving women a lot of the time, you know, in terms of like, you know, just advice for, you know, furthering the sensations, you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
But anyways, I digress. So I'm not trying to get you in trouble. Me, I don't care. But I care more about you. But in this case, but what ended up happening is he sent me a message one day and was like, and this is to do with stories, but what ended up happening, I'll tell you some after, because you'll be like, there's no way that happened. What ended up, because I know you're a big fan of those, but what ended up happening, I love it. What ended up happening is he reached out and was like, dude, I've been following your YouTube channel and like the show and stuff for a while. I'm like, it's cool, you're still doing it. He's like, you've always had this gift of gab. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah.
He ended up saying, he was like, dude, I have this bass tournament. I need you to, like, we're needing an MC. It was too much for me. I need to announce whatever. He's like, we'll pay you. I'm like, say less. Let's go.
Do it.
Did it last summer. Got it again this summer with like everything from like there's 8 events throughout the summer, like on a barge for one of them, on like jet skis for different, like just it's just gonna be so silly. It's like so sick.
The experience alone is incredible, right? And then you're gonna pay me for this?
Yeah, I was like, I mean, I told him, I was like, do bare minimum compensate my gas, because they're like, I'm driving to Point of Barrel and back.
Yeah.
Paris Sound and back.
Yeah.
The island and back. I'm like, eventually that gets pricey after 8 events back and forth.
Yeah.
Come on. So I was like, just compensate that. And he's like, no, we have enough sponsorship ad money. Like, we can do it. And I was like, no way. Dude, a lot of the prizes too are like 10, 20 grand, 30 grand for payouts for first place.
What?
And then like so much like bait and tackle stuff and everything. Like, yeah, Huron Bass Tour, man. Amazing. They do it so well. I'm very grateful to be with them. And like, this is what I mean by like opportunities that have come from the show. Like, just before even like guests.
Yep.
But I think the biggest thing is like, oh man, in terms of, there's been a lot of contradictory things, like things where like people are, like for mental health, I think mental health and my opinions on mental health have developed because of the show.
Yep.
Right? So it started from a point of like not understanding it and not being like aware. I'm just hearing it and being like, oh, you know, there's health, there's illness.
Yeah.
And
well,
then
there's like a stigma, right?
There is.
So you gotta like, I know, like watch some of these, and I think some of your guests, they break down that stigma, right?
I think so too.
They make it like approachable.
Yeah, which is a good way. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. And the way, to your point, looking at that is how that's developed with the stigma is, it's like there's a stigma around it. And I think the stigma is purely from a point of people have this distrust with, if you have an issue or a mental illness, or, and I do know they're separate, right? Because there are issues with mental health and there are things that go wrong, but I think the stigma is all around why, and I'm trying to find the best way to package this, but it's basically about understanding. And I think the problem with understanding to a point though is a lot of the times people will be like, well, you'll never understand what I'm going through. And it's like, you're right, but also I'll never be able to.
Yeah.
So you trying to push me to understand what you went through, whether it's negative or positive or mental health or not. If you're like, Glenn, you'll never understand what I've been through. I'm like, yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
You can sit here for 12 hours every day and I still wouldn't be able to understand.
Yeah.
Right? Because I didn't live it.
Yeah.
And so I think the stigma is that when people don't want to be understood, which is, everybody just wants, like, we always want to be understood at the end of the day. I think when there are people that don't want to be understood, it's easier to hide behind that.
You put a wall up 100%.
And that's the stigma, I think, is with that. So then those people that have mental health issues are like, well, there's a stigma behind it. I'm like, the stigma is you putting up a wall, going like, oh, well, I'm just going to play victim.
Yeah.
I'm just going to allow
like
you
retreat,
to not,
right?
Yeah, man. It's like, I don't want to be understood. And it's when you're put in a position of you're not allowing people to understand from you or what you're going through, then you're unable to connect, you're unable to empathize. And so it's like, I could try to make you understand, or you could try to make me understand, but ultimately, if, well, Kyle, I just want you to be more understanding from what I'm going through. And you're like, yeah, but you won't let me understand. Well, Kyle, you'll never understand what I'm going through. But I'll keep pushing you, and you'll be like, well, you'll never understand. I'm like, I never will. I've ran into that like conflict with people on the show and then after the show, where I'm like, I'll say something and then I'll challenge their depression. And in like a healthy way, where I'm like, they're like, oh, I had this one example, and somebody was like, I ended up being depressed. And I was like, they're like, oh, I did everything I could to not be depressed. I'm like, did you though? And they're like, what do you mean? And I'm like, did you do everything you could to not be depressed? And they're like, well, actually, you know what, Glenn, that hurts. You're saying that. And I'm like, maybe. But your feelings aren't my problem. Which is a big thing my buddy Rob Hyman taught me. Where it's like he kind of made me help me understand this side of it. Where it's like, I might be going through things, and Kyle, I feel like shit.
Yeah.
So now you need to feel like shit.
Yeah.
And
Like-
you're like, no, it's not your problem how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
So I'm like, why am I now putting that on you?
Yeah.
I need you to feel bad,
Yeah.
Kyle, because I feel bad.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's where the stigma, I think, is when you don't allow yourself to be understood.
Yeah.
Or you don't want to be understood.
Yeah.
That's that wall that you're saying is being created, and then that's where the issue stems from with the stigma.
Yeah. Like we all have mental health, right? And that's on a spectrum. And then when it gets too far to one side, it can become a mental illness, right?
Sure.
But I think the unifying thing is like we all have mental health. So like that's a common ground, right?
Mhm.
And then
Yeah.
I might not be able to experience your experience, which is like sympathy, right? Like if I've done it, then I can be sympathetic to you.
Sure.
But if I haven't done it, then like I want to try to be empathetic to you, right? Where I haven't been there, but I can try to feel what you're doing, right? And
Right.
like I'm happy that more people are talking about mental health. Like I think it is important because again, we all have mental health, and I think the worst thing for our mental health is social media. I think
It's terrible. Yeah.
it's this game of comparisons of like haves and have-nots, and the have-nots feel like they're less than, but really that person that's just curating this perfect life, like that's not really them,
No.
right? But I think that's creating like again a wall between people. Because it's not real life, right?
That's the stigma.
Yeah, but
That's
if
the stigma
people,
line.
just like be yourselves, allow people to be empathetic to your experience, be empathetic to their side,
Yeah.
and then you can talk your way through this, right?
Right.
And that hopefully can prevent you from sliding down into mental illness, right?
I think you're
But I
right,
think
yeah.
that the communication and connection is essential,
Right.
and when you have that through a screen, it's not the same. Like we don't release the same hormones.
No.
When we're face to face and we're looking at each other's eyes, like that's like human
Very different.
civilization's been built on that, right?
sure.
And like we release the oxytocin and human touch, and I think the screens is like it's one of the worst things that we have. And there can be like useful tools. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
Like the phone is a tool, but people need to learn how to use it properly.
If you take a screwdriver and you use it to screw in a door handle, it'll work perfectly because
Yeah.
that's what you're using it for. If you use it to jam your eyes out, well, it's going to hurt.
Yeah, and I talk to my
Yeah.
students like use the right tool.
Yeah, we've talked about this
for
before.
like the right job.
For sure.
And it can be valuable, but when you're just sitting there scrolling, like I just said I was guilty of,
Yeah.
like no one walks away from having a scroll session feeling good about themselves.
Never, not one
You know what I
time.
mean?
Yeah.
They feel like crappy, right?
Yeah,
You
you-
wasted time. You wasted energy that you could have been working out, eating, sleeping properly, like
Literally
whatever.
anything better.
Yeah. So I tell my kids like there's two yous. There's the virtual you that you live online, and then there's the real you. The virtual you cannot exist without the real you. So when you're spending, like, because energy's like finite, right? Time's finite. You can't. It's not infinity. So when you're spending 10 hours a day on the virtual you, that's 10 hours a day you're taking away from the real you. So you need to shift that. You need to take care of the real you, which is exercising, sleeping properly, just moving,
Yeah, talking to the
talking
right
to people,
yeah.
eating good foods. Then you can go and foster a better virtual you. But the virtual you can never take the precedent. It can't be first.
Right.
And I think a lot of people are kind of maybe losing sight of that because it is so easy to just go down those rabbit holes, right?
Yeah.
But it's driving the mental health further down that spectrum that we don't want to see.
Right.
Yeah.
I think I got 2 points off that. One is to go to your comparison. Amazing quote. Never remember who says this, but comparison is the thief of joy.
Dude, I just
know
heard
you were
this the
just
other day
thinking- yeah,
too.
of course you did, yeah.
So some of my students were
course.
just
So
reading
prevalent.
quotes,
Yeah.
and it was like it wasn't a lesson we were doing. They're doing like so we're done. I was done my lesson. Of
course.
So they're doing work on like another subject, another class.
Yeah, whatever they're doing.
And
yeah.
a girl literally read that, and I'm just like, so it's I've heard these
legit.
quotes like a couple times in a few days now. Like it's I think it's true, man.
I think so too.
It really is.
You know, I think too, in order for us to like be aware and like flip that switch, because you're like, I spend 4 hours. Some people don't even know they spend 4 hours.
Oh yeah.
So this kind of ties into one of the questions I got from like in one of the comments on Instagram on the video was a buddy asked me, he's like, what skill do you wish people had, like, were just developed more or focused on more building or develop better?
That's a great question.
Great question.
I like that. Yeah.
Zach, real estate.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Zach's the
Zach's
man.
a
I love it.
beauty too, yeah.
Beauty. And so he goes, so he asked that question, and I was thinking about it, and I didn't really have an answer.
Yeah.
until just now when I was talking to you, and you're like, you said it, and I was like, you know what? Because you're like, I just realized, 4 hours, like, the biggest skill, and I have this issue with my family sometimes, because I'll tell some of them, I'll be like, I just wish people had a better understanding and a higher level of self-awareness.
Yes.
If you have a higher level of self-awareness, you'll be able to fix your own shit easier. You'll be able to take responsibility for your own actions and your own life. And you'll be able to make choices consciously, like you do, where you're like, oh man, I spent 4 hours. Some people spend, like you said, 10 on virtual you, and they don't even know how long that is. It's because they have no awareness. They're so in their own bubble, which in this case is focused on nonsense. So it's like, that's where it becomes toxic, and that's where it becomes like, now all our joy is being stolen from us because everybody has a self-awareness issue. Because something, and I've told this to people that I bump into every day, which is the line of like, I'm going to start to be a dick and get fired, so let's not get there. Let's, leave and hand in my tweet. Right? That was this line. I learned from that thing with the architecture firm. But what ended up happening is, I remember telling people, this dude blamed his daughter because she didn't clear. She's 12. Blamed his daughter for not clearing out underneath the sink. Like he needed to. When I asked him. So I said, hey Kyle, like, I'll be. Oh, your sink's leaking underneath here. I'll be there in an hour. I'll check it out. I'll take a look. I need you to make sure everything's cleared out. Cool. I get in. Hey man, what gives? I asked you to clear out. Everything all right? And he's like, oh well, my daughter. And I go, it's always somebody else's fault, isn't it?
Oh right. It's so easy to blame others.
The easiest thing in the world. So that was kind of my that was the whole thing around, and I was like, you know what? If people improve their self-awareness, they would not get their joy robbed from them, because they're doing it to themselves. Because it's always somebody else's fault. It's never yours. It's never mine. It's always somebody else. And it's so easy to fall into that trap. But I think if people increase their self-awareness, everybody's lives would immediately drastically improve, because you wouldn't make the same mistake twice.
That's right.
And you'd understand why you react a certain way, and guess what? You would change that.
I think that's important. Self-awareness is something that's needs to be fostered and practiced, right? And you got to be intentional about it, like you're saying. And it would not only impact you, but it's going to impact the people around you.
Absolutely.
Right. So I would support that skill for sure. That makes sense.
Hell yeah.
Right on. Is there anything else that you feel like we should share that you want your listeners to kind of know about you?
I do have 2 stories for you from Europe that I wanted to mention.
Please.
That I was going to skim over. So, because you mentioned like standout spots, and like the cup of coffee and Fabio, it just made more sense to tie that in. And so, what I did want to mention, I went to, there were 2 stories. One is in Romania and Bucharest. No, Transylvania. One was in Transylvania, which, by the way, go to Romania. Amazing place.
It's so cool.
And then go to, and then one was in Transylvania and one was at the top of the Eiffel Tower. So, we basically did this thing. We land in Germany. Oh no, I flew into Amsterdam. My friend had done the Alps, and he was meeting me in Germany 4 days later.
So cool.
So it was sick, and dude, the photo's miraculous to this day. And I ended up flying in Amsterdam, losing my bag. 4 days later, getting it, like, as I'm leaving my friend's place, she's getting a knock on the door at 10 a.m., and it's my bag. And then at 11 a.m., an hour later, my buddy shows up to drive us from where we were, 2 hours north of Frankfurt in Germany, to Berlin.
Nice.
Yeah, so crazy. Train from Amsterdam to Berlin. Go Berlin to go south, and we go to Poland. I think it was Poland, and then it was Austria. Yeah, it was probably Poland, Austria, in Vienna. Went to Czech Republic. Then from Czech Republic to Hungary. Hungary and Budapest to Romania. Romania to Serbia. Serbia to Bosnia. Bosnia to Croatia. Croatia to Italy. To Monaco to Spain.
Wow.
And then to Spain, there's a country in between called Andorra. Went through. It's just literally just a country in the mountains. It makes no sense. It's beautiful. It's like you're just literally driving mountains. It's crazy. It's ridiculous. And we go there, and then go to France. Went France to Belgium. Belgium to the Netherlands, back where he parted ways, and then flew off from Amsterdam the next day.
That's an incredible trek, man.
6-7 weeks.
Wow.
And the last day, And legit, I thought I would have been homeless for like the last 5 days. It was outrageous. So I'll start with the Transylvania story. So what ended up happening is we were looking for a place to stay. And we ended up finding this campsite called Vampire Camping. You know,
I was just gonna say, like, did you see anything like Vlad the Impaler or anything like that? Like
there's a lot of like cutouts and like museums. Not so much museums, but like parks that had statues. They were like I don't even think it was ever really bright when we were in Romania. Like it was never fully sun out. It was always like
overcast, what you would expect, right?
Yeah. There's like these castles on. I have some photos for you where there's these like castles on the side of the hill. Yeah. It's like the wall front face of the castle straight down flat with the like cliff of the mountain, and you're like, what is going on? Also, the best driving in the world for like crazy driving and is the mountains in Romania.
Yeah.
Go check it out. Take the wife when the kids are old and off to school, whatever. Yeah. And just you guys go for a road trip and just it'll be, by the way, super cheap. Not really to fly there. Yeah. But once you're there, it's like, dude, it's like it's the cheapest it's gonna be. Yeah. I love it. It's one of those like older. It's close enough to Russia. Yeah. That like I think Czech Republic and anything east of the Czech Republic. Yeah. Is like the Czech Republic's a really good like in between. Like you get a bit of Western feel. Yeah. And then you get a bit of like Soviet Union-esque. Yeah. And I think like the style and the culture around the like, you know, post-Soviet era buildings in Europe, insane.
I'd love to check that out.
It's so cool because they preserve that stuff there. Yes. Right? Yeah. And because that's like where, you know, the world's kind of started. Yeah. And what ended up happening is we get to this campsite, right? Vampire Camping. I'll never forget this. We go up. Me and my buddy James. And we go up to this place, and we go to this guy, this Vlad-looking guy. And he's like, it probably wasn't Vlad. It's probably like Curtis or something stupid. But anyways, his Vlad to me in the story. And what ended up happening is he comes up, we're like, hey. And he's just standing in front of, I swear to God, man, a foldable table. And we're like, he just had literally just a debit machine. Yeah. And a foldable table, nothing else. And he was just standing in front of it. And we're like, is this where we check in, man? Like, we just want to camp? Like, that could have been anybody, man. And he just put it. Yeah. And I'm like, this seems legit. And we're like, where do we check in? He's like, so, what are you guys doing? And we're like, can we check in? He's like, yes. And we're like, okay. 1 night. He's like, 1 night. We're like, 1 night. He's like, I swear to God. He goes, 2 people, 2 cars. And we're like, 2 people, 1 car, 1 tent. And he goes, 2 people, 1 car, 2 tents. And we're like, no, Vlad. Yeah, no. Two people, 1 car, 1 tent. He goes, swear to God, he goes, 2 tents, 12 euros. And we're like, no. 2 people, 1 car, 1 tent. He goes, 2 people, 1 car, 2 tents, 12 euros. 2 people, 1 car, 1 tent, 30 euros. What? And we're like, what do you mean, dude? What are you talking about?
That math
and he was like,
check out.
So it's more for 1 tent because this is why. Because, again, not a Western country. Yeah. So he goes, like, you know, yeah, and we're like, 30, whatever, right? And we're like, dude, what? Like, we're trying to compute, and we're like, no. And we're like, okay, maybe he misspoke. No, 30 euros. We're like, we question, we're like, Vlad. 2 people, 1 car, 1 tent. He goes, 30 euros. Slides the machine in front of us, and we're like, well, whatever. So we pay, which an extreme amount. Yeah. By the way. And actually, it might have not been euros, but it might have been whatever. But either way, double the price and then some.
So did he explain why?
I found out. So he didn't explain nothing. We was just like, okay. He literally is like, we're good. And he's like, hell. And we go, and my buddy looks at me and he says something, and I'm not really gonna repeat it because it's a bit aggressive. But what ends up happening is I tell this story to my folks in their kitchen like 2 weeks later when we get back. Yeah. 3 weeks later when we get back, and my mom laughs, goes, oh no. And we're like, what are you talking about? And we're like, it's funny you say that because literally the week after you guys visited, or within the 2 weeks from you guys being in Romania to not being in Romania to this day, they passed a law that forbids any same-sex marriages or any same-sex like interactions. And so where my buddy, what he ended up saying was, he was like, that guy definitely thought we were
A couple.
we were gay.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy cow, dude, no way. We didn't even think nothing of it.
Yeah.
And we're just like, no, we're just grabbing our tent and going. And he's just like, we're going to double your price.
Because
y'all are lovers and stuff. And I was like, we were so caught off guard. We're like, whatever, we don't really care about any of this. We got a big town. We're going to go to bed. And he's just like, no way. He's like, unacceptable.
Yeah.
Not in my park.
Yeah, parts of the world, eh?
Yeah.
Still.
That was crazy. So I thought that was the funniest thing ever. And then just hearing about that, because I didn't think nothing of it at the time.
Yeah.
And we're just laughing it off. And then we go and when my folks told me about this article that came out and was like, oh, hold on. So 2 weeks after they banned.
Yeah.
Oh, we were.
Yeah.
I was close.
Yep.
That was a crazy one. Because they might have done that under misunderstanding.
Yeah.
They might have gotten
Might have been
called.
arrested or something, right?
Would have been wild, too. Imagine arrested in Romanian prison. That would have been a twisted story. But the last thing is, so the Paris, not incident, but the Paris story was, so because
Were you with James, your partner, still?
Yeah, so I was with James.
Semantics.
Details. Dude, that's so fucked up. That's so fucked up. It's like right away after, too. So
Sorry, travel partner.
Semantics, right? Yeah. Come on, man. That kills me. Dude, this guy goes, we're in Paris, and we go to the Eiffel Tower to check out the price to go up, and he's already been up, he doesn't care. And it's more, because he's older, so it's like from 18 to 24 is like, it's like €8 to go up, but if you're 25, which he's 25 to like 55, it's like 30, 50. Like, it's way more, whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm not paying that, I'm broke. And I'm like, okay, cool. So he stays at the base, and he's like WhatsApp chatting video with this girl we met in Barcelona the other day, and then he was like, I'll do this. And I'm like, all right, bet you will. And then, whatever, we go, and he's off to one side underneath one of the posts of it. And I'm like, I'm going to go up. I wait in line, whatever. I'm chatting with people. I go up. I got my stupid bucket hat on, my shorts. And I go up. I'm like, why am I the worst dressed person in this city right now? What's going on?
Yeah.
Especially on the tower. Like, what the hell's happening, man? So I'm like, everybody up here seems to be pretty like, and like things were kind of guarded off a bit weird. So I was like, okay, like this seems a bit, and I'm like, I'll explore a bit. I'm like moving. I'm like, not cutting lines, but like there's definitely rope that I like didn't go around, but I went over.
Yeah.
So
well,
I'm like
A to B straight line, like that's the shortest path. So you're being again savvy.
Thank you, man. Like I was thinking so, and so I was trying my best to like not just get there. And I was like, okay, cool. Get to this base, and there's an elevator. I go up all the way up to the top first, and I was like, I'll walk my way down. And I'll figure it out. Right. By the way, terrifying. I end up going up, and I'm like, why am I the worst dressed? And it's like everybody's dressed really well. So I'm like, whatever. Up there for like half an hour total up there, and then I went down. But in the first like 15 minutes, I was like, okay, I'm just walking around. And then I noticed, I'm like, why does it look like and feel like I'm in a line? Yeah. People are being ushered towards this like area of the top of the Eiffel Tower, and I'm like, well, this is interesting. Let's see what's going on. I'm curious. So I kind of like will follow the rest of it. I'm looking. I'm like, what's going on here? And then I'm like, oh, this is weird. Okay, I can't quite see anything. Whatever. I turn around and I like bump this like waiter, and he turns and like sees me. He's got like a bunch of champagne on his like thing. So he's like, champagne, sir? I'm like, dude, I look at him. I'm like, no money, right? I'm like, I've got no money, man. And he was like, don't worry about it. I'm like, what do you? Something's going on here that I'm just involved in now without knowing I'm involved in. He gives me the champagne, sorry, and I look and I'm like, go to drink. He's like, no, attends. I was like, attends. So like, wait, right? I'm like, wait for what?
Yeah.
And he just kind of like ushered me a bit towards back to the line. And I was like, okay, weird. And then there's this old couple got up on top of like this like platform type stage, like just high enough that I could see like their shoulders and up. Yeah. And they were short, cute old couple, and I was like, what's going on here? And they're like, can we have everybody's attention? Like, attention. I'm like, what the hell's going on? What am I here? Yeah. And they were toasting to their 50th wedding anniversary with all the people, like friends, family, and all the people on the Eiffel Tower. Like, it wasn't privately booked because you can't really do that, I don't think.
Yeah.
But they definitely, yeah, it definitely felt like I was like, I'm like, you know, somebody that's there that might not supposed to be.
Yeah.
But they were celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary on the top of the Eiffel Tower. And I guess that's where they spent, like, that's where they got engaged or something. So they're like, they're celebrating some, but like number 50 of being married. And I was like, geez, no way. And they did this like huge speech or whatever of like craziness. And I'm just like, what the hell am I doing here?
And you crashed their 50th.
Yeah, I was like, what am I doing? Yeah, like, what am I doing?
They probably
like,
thought like you're a photographer wearing your bucket hat and stuff. They're
dude,
like,
it was
this guy's
bad.
got to be the photographer.
Dude, it was so bad. I had eaten a lot of, I had been drinking a lot because we're in Europe, so I've been drinking only wine and like beer and like all this good stuff, like in Germany and everything. And like I got a gut at the moment, but I'm skinny because I'm just been drinking and eating. And I'm just like, my proportions were all off. So I'm like, got a gut hanging out. I got photos on, man. I'll be like, that's what I was wearing. You'll be like, there's no way they didn't. Like, they should have arrested you immediately. But it's the French police, so whatever. And I ended up going down out and like walking my way down, exploring different rows and stuff, looking out. And it was like at night too, by the way. Which, if you're gonna go to Paris and you're gonna go to the Eiffel Tower, go at night.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
That's it. If you have the option, day or night, do whatever you can to do night.
Yeah.
No matter, we can only see. Go at night. I don't care what you.
It's all lit up.
It's all lit up. It's the same amount of people anyway, if not a bit less. But everything's lit up, and the rest of the city's lit up.
Oh, that'd be
which is
beautiful.
crazy, right? So now you're at the top looking around, and there's like a strobe light not strobe lights, but there's strobe light shows. There's flashing. There's like light shows. There's everything. Whereas like the day, it's like there's the structure.
Yeah.
You just see the city, and it's just all kind of looks the same from the top, but the lights are way cooler.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was kind of like the last thing of like the few that I was thinking when you asked the Europe question. I was like, ooh, or the traveling question. I was like, ooh, interesting. Yeah, that's that circles out a bunch. There's other stuff that happened that I don't think is as like fascinating. Like there's just like we did a lot of dumb stuff. Yeah, and then kind of stuff that was like we should have avoided it. Looking back and was like, yeah, probably should have. Like, dude, we would climb fences to get photos and like climb into other people's houses in the mountains and like go out on their decks in their backyard and just take photos with tripods out. Yeah. Like we're like set up the tripod, and we'd have people come home and see us and be like, what the hell? And we just run. Like multiple different times.
That's crazy. Like
groups of people, and we're either gonna have to fight or run, and most of the time we're like, there's 7 of them. We should probably just leave.
Yeah, just run.
Yeah, we're a bit outnumbered now. Yeah. No way. And and again, not in good shape at that time either. Because like, gut beer, and I was like, whatever. And he got expensive stuff, so I'm like, I might just break it anyway. So let's just bail, run down the mountainside, and figure it out later. So, yeah. A lot of
that's good. You got a lot of good stories, man. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
So we ended my interview with you asked me if I had like one quote to kind of share. Do you have one quote that really resonates with you that you kind of want to share?
Oh,
you've cited a few good ones here today.
Yeah, there's a few.
There's been some really
a bunch
good
ones written. There's a bunch of good ones figured out. Oh man, it's funny because the one that's like there was the opportunity one that I was telling you about. Yeah. There was I have a lot of what's it called? I have a lot of I think back to kind of like the most recent big thing that I like took away, and one of them. So we talked about it a bit on yours, and we talked about it a bit on here with like so Jack Armstrong. Yep. And seeing the speech going. Shout out to Michael for like making that a thing. But the biggest thing I took away from that speech was so he had like a bunch of different moments, right? Where he like talked about this, talked about that, but the craziest part for me in that speech that kind of put me over was he ended up talking about his mom, talked about his family, talked about a bunch of things, and the biggest thing I found is my Instagram bio now. It's called I'll say what happened because I don't want to ruin it. But what ended up happening is he says the story about how he was in this conference, and I'm paraphrasing, right? But he was in this conference, Kyle, and he was like, you know what? I'm meeting all these people, all these coaching. I think he was a coach at the time for whoever. And he was like meeting these really world-renowned people in the space. Super Bowl champion was like a keynote or guest speaker, whatever it might have been, a conference of some sort, keynote event, big event. And he goes up to the person, he's like asking, and he's like a football recruit type scout coach, whatever. And he's like, what's the most important thing you look for in athletes, right? He's like kind of asking more general specific, general niche question, right? So he was like trying to, and the guy was like, Jack, it's about the dash. It's about the dash. I've told you this, right? I was like, it's about the dash. And I was like, and Jack's like, oh, like the 40-yard dash, right? And we were like, oh, it becomes before, it comes after. And I was like, oh, jeez. And I was like, huh, like, and I'm thinking like, right? And I think I told you, we didn't talk about this on yours, but we talked about it after, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, good. Because I was like, I don't want to repeat it. But what ended up happening is I'm thinking, and he's thinking like, oh, is it like how they approach it? Is it how they do it if they don't perform as well, or if they perform very well? Are they like overconfident? Is it subtle cues? What do you look for? Yeah. And he goes, no, it's about the dash. And we're like, yeah, but what is it about the dash? He's like, no, it's about the dash. And we're like, okay. And he's like, your tombstone has 3 things on it. It has the date of birth, your date of death, and your dash to connect the two. He's like, that dash is your life. That is all the memories. That is the people you've met. That is the people you've learned from. That is the people you didn't like. The people that you didn't like you. That is the people that you just said hi to. The people that you paid it forward to in like a Tim Hortons line. The people that were rude to you. The people that you misspoke about. The people that you yelled at in traffic. The people that, you know, were the best people in the world. Your parents, your friends, like the yous, the me's, the everybody's. And he's like, that dash is the most important thing on your tombstone. It's about the dash. Yeah. And I was like, ooh, I'm sitting. Yeah, dude, crazy. Deep. I'm sitting there at 9:30 in the morning with chills, being like, today's gonna be a great day. Yeah. And I was like, oh, it's crazy. So I think alone is like between the story, the way it was told, and then that quote, and I was like, that's why it's the only thing on my Instagram bio. Because I'm like, right now, I'm like, it's about the dash.
I love it.
And ever since then, I've yet to hear. I've had, like you said, with the Jordan thing, like other things, and talking to you and different quotes are like things that were like concepts or ideas that might have stood out as like, that's a really good thought, Kyle. That's really good. But nothing like such a small like it's about the dash. Yeah. Like 4 or 5 letter word or 4 or 5 words, and it's just like symbolizes
your entire life.
Yeah. And everything that went through it. So I was like,
that's incredible. That's a good story.
Yeah.
So I got one last question for you. Uh-oh. This is probably the most serious, hard-hitting question of the interview.
I'm very nervous.
Have you ever went swimming and kept your shirt on?
Oh, man. I think...
Because we talked about your heckles, right, on my episode. So I got to flip it and be like, have you ever done it? Like, what made you think of that heckle? Because it's a good one. And I think you might have.
Dude, I grew up, and I had my dad. Well, he's outgrown this because like he's got grandkids now, but like for the kids, it's like it was the what was it, the 90s and the early 2000s. Yeah. I don't know them. You know.
1900s, crazy time.
Yeah. He was a Speedo guy.
No.
So he would.
Hey, it's back. Come full circle, man. They're back in style.
That's it. Like, I mean,
not everyone should wear one.
But the problem is, and like, I don't even know if he could or he can't. But the thing is, I mean, he did, and a lot of the thing that I had an issue with is I have an issue with to this day is all my friends and people I know that do wear Speedos when they go swimming always wear a shirt over them. Yeah. Sometimes, like either after or before. Yeah. And some of them, like not him, but I've known people that at the pool in Ottawa that would go swimming shirtless. Yeah. And anybody who goes swim shirtless has like a crazy like body issue. Yeah. But I've seen some like really in shape dudes go swimming with shirts on. Yep. And he looked like there was a lot of people that looked like this player from Windsor that were wearing shirts one day. Literally 5 of them all wearing shirts and they're jacked. And I'm like, guys, what are you doing? They're jacked with Speedos. Yeah. So I'm like, what are you guys doing here? Like, go leave, man. Yeah. There's enough room. Like, dude, that pool limit of people is like 15. Yeah. The maximum number of swim.
And 5 of them have t-shirts on.
5 of them are t-shirts on, and all 5 of them had Speedos on too. And I'm like, guys, you're in great shape. What are you doing? Yeah. Why are you wearing a shirt? But they all look like the Windsor guy. Like, they're all just lean, jacked, shorter dudes. Like, or not shorter, but like they look not as tall. Like, they're maybe, 5'11", 6'1", whatever. And they're just like built. And I'm like, why are you guys doing this? Wild. To all of us with eyes. It's just ridiculous, man. I was like, what is this, a wet t-shirt contest? And we just didn't know about it? At a children's pool?
Was Walter wearing a t-shirt?
No, Walter wouldn't wear a t-shirt.
Walter's
no.
a stud, though.
Walter's an adult.
He's a stud, though.
Dude, Walter's great, man.
All right. Well, I think we've covered a lot of topics.
We covered them all, man.
Definitely had some good laughs.
Covered some shit.
This has been fun. This
Dude,
has been
you're the man,
incredible.
Kyle.
Thank you so much.
man.
You're the man.
I
Thanks for
love it,
making
dude.
this possible,
Oh,
right?
yeah.